Welcome to session 8 in our series, God's New Thing. Isaiah 43 says this: "Do not remember the former things or consider the things of old. I'm about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." I wonder how the people felt when Isaiah said these words. A new thing? Do you not perceive it? Well, no, not really. We're in a time of contemplating new things now. Sometimes the response might be, let's just get back to normal. As though the way we were doing things before was normal, and as though everyone would gain from going back. But the world has undoubtedly changed. Going back may not be an option, or it may be a retrograde step. I recently heard of a woman who's been housebound for more than 10 years and not able to attend worship for the same length of time. Suddenly, through Zoom or whatever her church uses, the church comes to her. She dreads the reopening of the church in case she's again abandoned and forgotten. What does Isaiah see in God's new thing? A way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Refreshment in dry places and pathways to follow. In other words, hope. Partly from what we pray for, your kingdom come, but also because God's people do something about it. There's an example in the early church told by Luke in his second book, the Acts of the Apostles. A prophet from Jerusalem arrives in Antioch. He foretells a global famine which actually took place in AD 41 to 54. How do the Christians in Antioch respond? Well, they don't say the end must be nigh, nor do they say, this'll give us a great opportunity to grow the church. Nor, this is a sign that the world is a wicked place. Instead, they ask 3 practical questions. Who will be at risk? What can we do to help? And who shall we send? This illustrates one of the great principles of the rule of God. God's reign, inaugurated in Jesus, is all about restoring creation the way it was meant to be. God always wanted to work in the world through human beings. When the crisis arose in the early Christians in Antioch didn't waste time thinking about what the famine meant. They focused on what God was doing and realized that God would be doing something through them. Romans 8:28, a well-known verse. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. It's a well-known verse that's been domesticated to make troubled people feel better. Tragically, it's made us passive recipients of God's grace. But the normal Greek word for work isn't used here. Instead, Paul uses the word synergio, and you will immediately recognize that we get the word synergy from it. So God doesn't work for people, but with them. The New English Bible translates the verse, God cooperates for good with those who love God. If you have an RSV or NIV version of the Bible, you'll see something similar as an alternative in the margin. So Romans 8:28 isn't advocating a Christian stoicism. Rather, it's a call to work toward a new creation.